Okay, today I thought I would share a little bit of something different that you don't hear about very often, but it's a little bit of neuroscience and the study of motivation itself. It's kind of an interesting topic because a lot of times when we think of motivation, we think of like if you hear the word motivational speaker, which used to be a very big thing, we used to think of like pep talks that were inspiring, like you would see a coach do at halftime to bolster the team together to get them excited and prepped up to go out and win the game. But there is a lot that goes into motivation, and I have to say this is an interesting subject for me because I talk about being kind of anti motivation at some point in time. But I'm not really anti motivation. What I am is I don't think most uses of what people think is motivating is effective. So, this is a little bit of a dive into how to be effectively motivating yourself using all sorts of sources and some neuroscience. So let's get into it. Pop over here and I'll share my screen. And here you see this is a different program that I do that will be coming up in the future, but I wanted to borrow this material over for here. And today we're talking about motivation and neuroscience. So motivation is the force that drives behavior. No matter what your behavior is, there's always a motivating factor behind that behavior. So that is what drives behavior. We have motivations that we are aware of, like we know that we want to pay our bills, and that motivates us to work and earn some money somehow. But we have motivations that we're unaware of as well, that are why we want to sit on the couch and eat cookies and watch TV, and we don't really have the conscious reason why we're doing that. There's a lot of things, I would say the majority of behaviors that we have are motivated by factors that we're mostly unaware of. That, of course, is based on the model of the mind of having a conscious mind and an unconscious mind, where the conscious mind is aware of maybe 5 or 6 things at a time. So we're motivated to wash our dishes and clean our house and walk the dog and things like that. But what we're not understanding exactly why we chose to eat spaghetti that night, or why we are washing the dishes in the particular manner that we're washing them, or something like that. So the unconscious portion of the mind is dealing with thousands of choices at once. And so it's really in control of our behavior and our thoughts and our actions. And so if we understand a little bit more about how to control the motivation of the unconscious part of the mind, that helps us with overall motivation and behavior. Simply put, motivation is regulated by a lot of different factors, lots of them, more than we can really list here, but here's a handful of them. Chemicals, hormones, things we're putting into our body will change our motivations. The resources available to us, our beliefs. So if we have a shovel, we'll be motivated to use the shovel versus digging holes with our hands or with a hammer or something like that. But it's also our mental resources available to us as well. If we have education, we're going to use our highest education to deal with solutions to things that we need. But if we don't quite have the knowledge of how to do things most effectively, we'll choose the most effective way we know. Our beliefs. We have limiting beliefs no matter who we are. And so our beliefs of whether things are doable, whether we're able to fix something or learn how to fix something, or whether we have the right to earn a particular amount of money, beliefs will change our motivations. Our feelings are very inherently tied into our motivations. So feelings are a big factor. If we think the world is a horrible place and nothing good ever happens to us, that's a belief, but it also is tied in with a feeling, and that will definitely factor into our behavior. Timing as well. We might have more creativity or more clear thinking at a particular time in the day or a particular day of the week. And so timing is a big factor as well in a lot of different ways. Our fitness and health, including our brain health. So if we're overdoing with alcohol or drugs or something like that, or we're overdoing with bad foods, or we're working out several times and keeping our body fit and young and doing supplements, that affects our motivation. And then, of course, our environment. You always hear one of my favorite things. I'm not sure who came up with it. I heard it from Tim Ferriss. Was you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most, and that's a big eye opener for a lot of people, because if you're hanging out with a lot of alcoholics and partiers and drug users, and your 5 closest inner circle people are like that. Not to say there's anything bad with that, because a lot of people choose that lifestyle and it serves them. They enjoy it. But the likelihood of you being successful, if those are the 5 people that you're hanging out with, being successful, being healthy, living a long, happy life, probably pretty low. So your environment as well. There's a lot of factors. 2 types of motivation, and both of them are a delicate balance for the brain to be firing on all of its cylinders. Meaning that if you're only going for all of one type and you're ignoring the other type of motivation in these 2 types of categories, you're probably going to lose motivation at one point in time. The trick to motivation, already I'll tell you, is adding a lot of different layers. That way, when one layer kind of dies down, because all motivation is a peak and then a drop. So when one of them peaks and drops, if you've got layers of motivation built up, you won't get stuck in a slump. Instead, you'll be feeding off one of the other motivations, which is a very effective way to motivate yourself. So yeah, when combined, these 2 are a really incredibly powerful force. The first type is intrinsic, which means the sources of motivation come from inside of you. They're within. If we look at this list back up here, these are chemicals, their beliefs, their feelings. It's your sense of timing. It's your health and fitness. They're the ways they come from within. Internal factors like doing something because it's fun. If you love playing video games, if you love skiing, if you love hiking, if you love driving cars, you're going to be very highly likely to go out and do those because you enjoy them. So doing something because it's fun is a great example. The behavior that we do has a satisfaction anchored with it. So it's either very pleasurable or a lot of fun, or we thrive on learning from it, or something to that degree. To maximize intrinsic behaviors, people have to perceive they have the skills a supportive environment where they can foster creativity, responsibility, healthy behavior, and the lasting change. So that's a little bit of the things. If you're working on improving a behavior, those are 4 very important things, or 5 or 6 listed in there, to be focusing on for your environment, right? And that comes from Why We Do What We Do, which was a great book for some psychology. So in a business, for one to be successful, here's the checklist. You want good training and education. You want a lot of tools and resources. And you want guidance and mentorship. You want feedback, not only like so that you see where you've made mistakes or what you're doing really good, but also how you can improve upon. You want good examples, and you want the flexibility to grow. That's the perfect environment. So cons for intrinsic is that the reward is intangible. It's a feeling you're chasing, or it's a state of mind that you're chasing. So you have to be very interested in it, or the attention is lost. And it isn't always powerful. That's why you want to mix the two. So 5 types of intrinsic motivation. There's competence, which is learning. These are for people that love learning, love feeling the improvement of a skill. They love feeling like they've achieved something that they've never done before. Another one is attitude, just the love of being positive, the love of having a smile on your face, the love of helping other people smile, helping other people succeed, driving to just be improving and feeling like things are great, and helping others feel that as well. Achievement is also another big one, like a big goal setter who always has massive goals out there. They just love the feeling of accomplishment, whether it's reading a book, writing a paper, cleaning the house, or whatever it might be. The reward for those people is crossing the finish line, having that feeling of the ribbon go across your chest as you're crossing the finish line, and, having that sense of accomplishment complete. Creativity is another big one, which is just the love of expression, whether it's like painting, writing, speaking, anything like that, where you're just able to express and just find a lot of joy in that. And then there's also a physiological intrinsic motivation, which is the love of pleasure or pain. Pain's not always bad. It can be like you're lifting weights or working out or teaching somebody to climb a mountain or something like that. Pleasure can also be like curiosity, fun, survival, all sorts of things like that. Pain can be like rejection, knowing that you're close to accomplishing things if you don't know what's going to happen next and you're being rejected by this and that. You know that good things are right around the corner. You're facing change. You're facing the unknown. Some people are really driven by that. The other type of motivation in this model is extrinsic, where the sources come from outside. These are rewards like money, getting a raise, getting acknowledgement from your colleagues, getting some kind of celebrity status. So it's about external things. It can be less effective over time. Both of these can kind of deal with a little bit of you build up a tolerance to them, so you need more and more of them, which is another reason to layer them, because then if you're only working on one motivation, what can happen is when you achieve, you can have this really big letdown because there's nothing else motivating you, and you're not You had your sense of fulfillment, and then you're kind of like hung over and let down, and it can lead to a really big drop in mood and lack of motivation. So the more layers of motivation there are, the more reasons that you are climbing and achieving and working and doing, the more likelihood that not only are you going to accomplish and you're going to stay progressive and moving forward, keeping productive, but you also won't get that big letdown, because there's always, when you do achieve and you feel one sense of motivation, getting that fulfillment, you still have all these other senses of motivation ready to go for you. So extrinsic can be really great for short-term motivation. Like, hey, I'll give you $100 if you go to the grocery store for me today. And, but if I'm like, I'm going to give you $100 to go to the grocery store for me for the next 6 months, is not as appealing, right? So, also extrinsic motivation is not great for creativity and passion or engagement, because the goals are tied to external factors. So they don't work real great for internal needs. Four types of extrinsic motivators: incentives like rewards, giveaways, money, raises, things like that. These people are motivated by the outcome of the task, not the, so they're the ones that aren't enjoying the journey. They're just focused on the destination, finding that line ready to cross. Fear is another really big one, motivated by fear of undesirable outcomes. Like, if you don't do this, you'll be fired. Or if you don't do this, you'll lose your car. Or if you don't do this, like things like that. Even if you don't want to do the task, you'll be motivated to do it to avoid a bad thing. One of the things when we're talking about behavioral psychology, you hear about people going towards or moving away is a really big thing. They either go towards things they like, or they're moving away from things they don't like. And that's what this is moving away from not wanting to have that happen. So I'm moving away from it. Power is another really big motivator. These people just have a love of power, whether it's used for good or bad, does not matter. They're motivated by it. There's five, this particular model recognizes 5 types of power. There's what's called legitimate power, which is like proven skills, where the people around you know you've got this particular skill and they've witnessed it before, and that gives you a sense of power. Having those proven skills might be a good public speaker, might be a good leader, might be a very strong individual, or might have great driving skills, or whatever it is. It's legitimate power. Next is reward, the power of rewards. This person's got the ability to actually give somebody the raise if they achieve, or give them the job if they interview well, or something like that. So it's some kind of exchange of reward going on there. The expert also has a lot of influence because they have the technical knowledge. So somebody that walks in the room, like you hire the plumber to come fix your backed up pipes, you know they've got the power to be able to do that. They've got the expertise power. Referent power is actually one of the most greatest influences when it comes to power. And these are qualities like honesty and integrity and trust and respect. Referent power comes from other people talking about one individual's power, how talented they are, how good they are, how awesome they were when they helped you do this or that. So it's like word of mouth kind of power. And then there's coercive power, which is like the power of threat. It's almost like the opposite of reward. where it's like instead of the raise, you do this or you lose your job. So that's coercive power. Referent power is a great one. Coercive power, you're not going to get the best reputation if you're using that. So another the other extrinsic motivator is social, which is the love of being accepted. This is the like having the people admire you, acknowledge your expertise. They're giving you the referent power. That's the type of motivator that the social person likes to pursue. So how do we implement all of these multiple levels of motivation? This is an example using these. So setting goals is a really big one. Setting goals, detailed, concrete goals, so we know exactly what the goal is. And of course, writing them down is a very important thing as well, because it makes them even a little bit more concrete. And if you look back along this list, writing goals can deal with a lot of different things. It can be an intrinsic power where we want to do this goal because we want to feel the accomplishment of it, which would be like the one that is right here, motivated by the outcome of the task. We want to feel the acknowledgement of everybody knowing when we attain this goal, like having that acknowledgement, so we get that sensation as well. Make the goals public. That's how we do that. We tell people, I'm doing this. We get that social motivation that we were talking about here. Building a reward system. So we'll give somebody $100 and say, hold this for me, or $1,000, whatever it might be that's motivating to you. Give it to somebody and say, don't let me have this until I accomplish this. So you get a reward at the end of it. Or set yourself a goal like, when I do this, then I'll buy that new whatever, wardrobe or car or whatever it might be. Journaling is a really big motivator as well, because journaling helps us get that sense of accomplishment with the little daily things. It's like you don't notice yourself growing when you're a kid, but somebody who comes back and sees you after 4 or 5 months, man, you've grown 6 inches, but you don't notice it because it's a day-to-day thing that you don't notice the little tiny steps. So journaling is great because you can add things into journaling like where you are at this moment. And then in 3 or 4 weeks of journaling, you can look back and see a real measurable amount of growth. Tracking progress is another thing that goes with that as well. My favorite one for tracking progress is called SUDS. And that is doing the scale of 1 to 10. If I can type. Okay. And that's just saying like, okay, so in my business today, I feel like I'm at a 3. I've done a few things and we're moving forward. We're doing good. But it's not crazy successful and I'm still quite a ways away from my goal. So I'm at a 3. Explaining why you feel like you're at a 3. Same thing with relationships, same thing with your home, your business, everything. Like you can go a lot of different ways. And then like the next week, hey, like my business has progressed a whole lot. I made a lot of sales. I developed a lot of materials. I'm doing really well. Feel like I'm at a 4.5, 4.5. You can look back after that and see the measurable growth as well. So that's a really important factor. Action is a very big one. This goes into like the physiological aspects, but it also can tie into a lot of different other motivations too. Feeling, timing. and just really having that action, moving, taking steps. And then, of course, eating healthy, hydration, sleep, and I'm even going to put in exercise as well. So working on keeping fit and having the body operating on all cylinders, feeling as good as possible, super important. Another really interesting factor is something called the Hemingway effect. And this is a very interesting thing to do. And I invite you to really try it and see how it works for you. So one time in an interview, Hemingway was asked, how much should you write in one day? And Hemingway had advice for it. He gave an answer that was, I would say, highly unexpected. And since this answer, in recent times, there's been some university studies going on about this and seeing what the reality behind this advice was and if it was really legitimate. And it turns out probably is pretty legitimate. It works very good as far as the neuroscience of motivation goes. So his answer was, the best way when talking about writing, how much to write in a day, the best way is always to stop when you are going good and when you know what will happen next. If you do that every day when you are writing a novel, you will never be stuck. Remember, writers deal with writer's block. So if they write everything that they know is going to happen in the story and stop when they finally know, like, everything that they know is going to happen, when they stop there, everything's done. The next day when they come back to writing, they don't know what happens next. It's actually really genius advice. So he said, stop in the middle of where you know what's happening so that when you start the next day, you know what's going to happen next. And you can start right off into your writing flow. So here's how this works. This implies stopping a task before it's complete. And you break at a point where you still know what to do next. This can be really important when you're starting a brand new business like affiliate marketing or working on breaking into the coaching business or consulting business, because there's a lot of things, even in a simple model like we teach, there are a lot of things going on that you have to keep track of. And, you know, there's still a lot of cogs in the gear there to be focusing on. So if you break at a point where you're midway through something and you still know when you come back where to start, it helps actually keep you organized and keep you motivated. Where it's like, I've had days where I have not done this and I just wake up and I'm in a daze and I'm not quite sure where to pick up. Do I need to go add people or have conversations, or who do I need to, like, you know, what relationships do I need to nurture, or was somebody asking for an offer doc or whatever it was, where if I stop in the middle of something, then I know right where to pick up, and it helps me understand what the next step is. I'm never lost. And one thing that I'm doing is I'm problem solving while I'm working, and I'm writing down ideas that I have, and I have little notes with me always for what I'm going to be doing next. And if I have something pop up in the middle, I just jot a quick little note about it, and I'm not really stopping the flow of what I'm working on right now. This also works great for goal setting, because if you think of, like, you know, you're going to have an affiliate business and coaching business, and, you know, the goal is you're going to make $100,000 a month. So let's get started. All of a sudden you're like, you know, how in the heck am I even going to begin to approach making $100,000 a month? All right, that's the goal for, like, say, we're going to work on that for that's going to be a long-term goal. Let's break it down. Let's start out and just make you a couple $1,000s a month. Okay, most of us have all made a couple $1,000s in a month somehow. It seems like a realistic goal, so that helps. But if you've never done affiliate marketing or coaching, then you say like, I have no idea how to even begin to do a couple $1,000s a month. It seems unrealistic. So we break it into goals. All right, let's work on what do you need to do to make a sale? Like let's just focus on one sale. Okay, for a sale, you need an offer, you need a product, you need some content, you need some people. There you go. You're good to go. So let's work on those 4 things. And then you take each one of those things, okay, to start out with content. What's the most important thing for content? Oh, okay. Have it be valuable. Have it be informative. Like put a little bit of your personality into it, and have it have a call to action, and have it nurture the relationship with the client. Okay. Then smaller and smaller, you go down into each one of those. Like, how do I do that? How do I do that? What's the next step I need to do that? And it works really great. So that's it for my Motivation and Neuroscience 101. That's the beginning aspects of it. But there's some really, really powerful things in there. So put them to use. Ask me questions if you want to. There's a lot to talk about each of this. This is a real short little thing, but it's really, really valuable, and it will help you stay out of those slumps. And it's a very important thing. Mindset's number one. Like if your mindset drops, your business drops. So the way you nurture your mindset is the way you nurture your business. So put these into action, really contemplate on them. Find out what your motivations are, add a bunch of extra layers of motivation, and you're going to be on your way. All right. I will talk to you soon.